Hey guys, Becky with Design Bundles, and I am back today. I'm bringing you another awesome Glowforge tutorial. And this time, not only are we engraving on wood, all right, our beloved wood projects, but this is one of the projects that made me want a Glowforge. They were really popular last year. They're even more popular this year. I am talking about Santa trays. Okay guys, so let me show you what I've done here. This is a piece of birch wood. It is 1/4 of an inch thick and I have masked both sides. And then if you can see it in the camera, I took a ruler. Now we're just talking about a regular ruler, a yardstick, anything like that, and a pen. And all I've done is I lined the ruler up with my edge and drew these lines. Now these lines are not of any significance other than, remember how I'm going to add the pieces of wood to the end. So basically my design is going to be smaller and I need to be able to see in my camera my placement and leave equal amounts of space on each side. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It made sense in my brain. Hopefully it makes sense in your brain. And just go ahead and position this on your crumb tray. And I try to bring mine down towards the front. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to close this. And actually I haven't even powered it on, so I'm going to power it on next. And then we will go back to the software for cutting.
Okay, so we are here in Silhouette Studio. Now, I visualize a lot of things in Silhouette Studio, and that's what we're going to do today. But remember that most designing softwares, you'll be able to do the same process. So I just give that little disclaimer because I don't want to put anybody off by using Silhouette Studio. But it's just really simple and easy for me. And I think it's also a good program for anyone looking for a decent design software. So what you're looking at here, I have already downloaded and extracted this file that I'm going to use. And what I wanted to show you is we are going to use the Dear Santa sample tray, but there are a whole range of different embellishments, and this is actually a make your own Santa tray kit, and I love that. It just really speaks to my, hey, I want to be a creator but I don't really have time to create. So I'm just going to use the sample tray, so I'm going to drag and drop this over here, but I wanted you to know that that was an option. Okay, so once I have everything over here, all right, I'm just going to put it in the middle of my work area. And let's go ahead and talk about our work area because, like I said, I want to visualize this. And what I want to do is come to my page setup. And I want to go ahead and set my width to 20 inches. Now you may be asking, Becky, why do you want to do that? Well, because I'm making a Santa tray. And what I mean by that is like I'm actually going to show you that I'm going to make a Santa tray, meaning that I'm going to put this sheet of wood into my Glowforge, but I am going to engrave what I need to engrave, and we are going to cut strips and add handles to the side. So this is how to make a tray on your Glowforge if you're not a handy person to make it yourself, okay? So what I'm going to do next is I want to go ahead and draw some rectangles. Now I did some experimenting earlier and I realized that I wanted my rectangles to be 12 inches high and 2.25 inches wide. Now, I won't lie, in the beginning, I really thought that that was going to be super small, but it worked out to be a decent size. And I'm just using the alignment tool up here to align them where they need to be. Okay, now I had already grouped this together, so I can just make it larger. And I will be able to ungroup this and change any of the layout that I want to. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see, it's the heart here, so we can just ungroup it a little bit more because I want to drag this part down to the bottom. I do want to space mine out a little bit. And I still want to give myself a nice border, not only from the top and the bottom, but just kind of around the outside too, so it doesn't butt up right against my handles. And just remember, if any of them are grouping together, you can just come in there and hit that ungroup button, okay? Now, once I get it set up the way that I want it, I'm going to go ahead and add my personalization. Okay, so I am for real done that time. I'm done. I added my personalization, and now what I'm personally going to do is I'm going to right click. I've used my drag box and I've selected all of my individual pieces, and I'm going to right click and choose weld. And what that's going to do is it's just going to ensure that any pieces that happen to be overlapping are welded together. All right. Now I need to choose an outline color. We'll do not a fill color, Becky, an outline color. All right. So I'm going to do a blue outline color, and then my little handles over here can be a red outline color. As a matter of fact, I'm only going to do one handle. That'll make sense though. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now remember that I have the business edition, so I can save directly from Silhouette Studio as an SVG file. So I'll go to save to my hard drive and my desktop, and we'll say Santa's cookie tray. Now I'm going to open my Glowforge software. All right, so here I am in the Glowforge software, and you can see my scanned picture, and you can definitely see the lines, okay? And this is kind of what I was talking about. If I had just placed the piece of wood in there, even though it's 12 by 20, I do not get a full 12 by 20 preview to be able to size and locate my design. I also don't know if you noticed in the first shot, I actually set this off to the right of my crumb tray, and as you can see, it's actually pretty centered. So, definitely just try to be flexible with using your camera, and don't be afraid to give yourself guides like these, because if you're cutting something with masking, the masking is going to come off anyway. So here in File Explorer, I'm just going to drag and drop my SVG over into the software. Okay, so once the design comes in, let me go ahead and just say we are not going to immediately use this here. We're actually going to cut those out, but what I want to do with this piece of wood is go ahead and start the engraving. So I'm going to choose ignore. And then here, so first of all, let's come in here and I want to do set focus. And then I can arrange my file to wherever it needs to go, right? So I'm just using my little grid lines. So once my focus was set, it did expand a little bit, but I still feel like the grid lines are very, very useful, and hopefully you find them useful too. So once you get your design lined up, go ahead and click off to the side, and I'm going to use the thick basswood plywood that worked well for me last time, and then I'm going to come in here and choose engrave, and I'm going to set my speed to 750 and my power to I think I did 75. Okay, and as you can see, what this does is it will show you parts that are not going to engrave because they're outside of the engravable area. So you definitely want to pay attention to that, what's coloring in and what isn't. Now, what I can do with this guy, because he is the exact thickness that I'm going to cut, I can use him as a guide to make sure that I'm aligning everything where it needs to go. So what I mean by that is to make sure that I'm not setting up any part of the design to where it's going to be covered up by my little strips of wood. Okay, so when I'm looking at placement, you can see that this comes right up to the second line that I drew. So over here on this side, I just want to make sure that I do the same. I'll put my design right there on that line, and then it goes slightly above the line I drew on top and slightly below the line I drew on bottom. So I really believe that this is going to give us a really good engrave. I'm going to go ahead and choose print. Now you have to be prepared. This is a relatively large project and you're engraving it all at a 750 speed. So this is going to take a while. All right, guys, so we're looking at just under 3 hours. So I'm going to walk over there and hit the magic button.
I don't know about you guys, but I really think that my Glowforge deserves a nap after that. But, I mean, I'm exceedingly happy with how good this edge turned out. So let me go set this up in the workspace and I will peel off the masking for you guys.
Okay, so our cutting is done, or rather our engraving. Our engraving for this design is done. So if we are finished with that design, you can simply select the whole thing and delete. Make sure you get all the pieces. There we go. Now that leaves us our piece for the side. So let's go ahead and rotate it around. Now I did some measuring, and the board is actually just a teeny tiny bit underneath 12 inches. So we are actually going to size this 11.9375. So it rounds it up to 11.938 and 2.25 inches. And I want to cut 2 of these. So I'm going to slide this all the way down in the corner. You know what, let's go ahead and set our focus. But basically I'm going to slide this down in the corner, and then I'm going to create a duplicate, and then I will cut my 2 sides. And of course, the rest of the board will still be available if you happen to need any other projects. This is all I need for right now, so I'll save the rest for later. So for my cut settings on this birchwood, what worked well for me. So last time I used, I believe it was 130, but I realized that I had some burning on the back. So this time I'm going to speed it up a little bit, and I'm going to do 150. So cross your fingers. This will be my little experiment to see how it goes. So I'm going to hit print and just going to send this up to the cloud and background to the Glowforge. And then I will be able to hit the magic button on the Glowforge.
All right, guys, so here is our finished piece. I am very, very excited about it. Now, I told you I would unmask it with you. All right, so of course, we're gonna have to go back in and get all of the inside pieces. Which, for those of you used to weeding vinyl, going in and getting the smaller pieces is not a big deal. Just a little bit of a pain, right? Now in this project, I received a very deep engrave. So probably on the next one I experiment with, and this will be something that you guys can do, because you saw my settings there, but probably my next one, I will go ahead and start increasing that speed. Because for a tray like this, you know, although it's nice to have the nice engraved texture, if this was something that I wanted to do in mass production, then of course 3 hours would not be a feasible time frame to, you know, make it worth my while, so to speak. Let me also show you guys, because I know that I've talked about it before, but if you take a look at what your little scraper does, it really helps you out here if you don't have the fingernails to go in here and start getting all these little pieces up. Now you do want to be careful. You don't want to do this. See how it is moving my charred edges around a little bit? See, I'm going to stain this, so that doesn't matter to me. But if you were going to leave this natural, then you would want to be more mindful of that. Especially on all these little inside pieces. I really, really like being able to use this. Probably if I would give this a good wipe down, if I would come in with a clean cloth and get that char off, I probably wouldn't even have to worry about that, right? Okay, so I think I got all the major pieces off, and all the smaller pieces for that matter. So I'm going to walk this over to the trash can and dust this off, and then I will show you what I got. All right, so there we go. And of course I can put my squeegee away. And let's talk about stain. Well, first, let me show you. Now I have not pulled off the masking on these yet, but these are going to go here and here. Okay, so does that kind of help you guys picture it a little bit better? And then of course, now these door handles are pretty cheap, but they're gonna go here and here. So, all right, now let's talk about stain. This stain that I have is Minwax. This is a, here, let me put the lid back on for you. This is Minwax Wood Finish, semi-transparent. This one is called Special Walnut, okay? This is 8 ounces. I got it, what, for about, I don't know, $5? It does say to condition, which is optional, a brush or a rag, and then go ahead and if you're going to apply protectant over this, you'll need to wait 4 hours. So it does talk about, you know, going ahead and getting a good sanding and things like that. These boards, in my opinion, are already pretty smooth, so I'm not going to worry about that. And it says to use a rag, which I'm sure is what most people do. In this video, you're going to see me use paper towels because that is what I have laying around. And I'm going to put a glove on so that I do not stain my hands. Ta-da! So I do want to go ahead and remove this masking on all of my pieces. All right, so make room. We'll get my side pieces on. You guessed it, each side. There we go. And I'm not going to stain the underside of these, but once I'm completely done, I will probably stain the underside of my board. All right, so I'm gonna wad it up, dip it in the stain, and just start applying. Now I really like the walnut color, but obviously there are a ton of different options available to you. Now I am not a staining professional, not a wood professional. I'm just a crafter. So definitely if you have any greater experience than I with staining, feel free to add your favorite types of stain. I went after this one solely for the Minwax name because of course I have heard of and used Minwax before, and then secondary choice was for the color. I also went with a lighter color, I feel like, because I wanted the dark of my engraving to stand out. And the only thing that I'm really on the watch for, especially using the paper towel and not using a rag, is I'm making sure that no tiny pieces of paper towel get caught in the grooves of my engraving. I also, again, not a wood professional, I also feel like you can feel the grain in these boards, and I definitely make sure that I go with the grain. I think that's what that's called. Like, that's how little of a wood crafter I am. I just can't even be sure that I'm giving you the right terminology, but there we go. Now, again, very light coat, love it a lot. If you notice anything in here, like any small pieces of masking that are trying to escape, there we go. Just make sure you pull that out. That way it does not interfere with your staining job. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry and then we will come back and do the assembly. Okay, so I heard that this was the best wood glue out there, that it was the super glue of wood. So we're gonna put it to the test today. I've got 2 projects to do with it because let me tell you about these screws. These screws, because I'm using this thin wood, they're too long. Okay, so if I use these screws to attach my handles, then it's gonna go through both layers of wood. They're too thin. So I'm gonna try it on the handles, and then I'm also going to attach these to the base here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first. And I'm just going to, do I have to clip the end maybe? Now it actually says no clamping required, which was a big draw for me. And just by hand, I'm gonna make sure that that is lined up on the top and the bottom, and then also on the sides. And then I'm gonna leave it alone. That is my biggest flaw as a crafter, is learning to leave it alone. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about these handles. I want to make sure that I do this evenly, all right? There's no take backs. So I'm going to put my ruler, here I'll start at the 10, and it goes up to 22, well almost 22, you know, these are just under a foot wide. And these are 5 inches tall. So let's do some math. What is 12 minus 5 is 7, so 3.5. So 1, 2, 3.5. Let me get something else that's straight. All right, so 3.5. So then I'm going to apply the glue. Now, I would just want to say, like, I'm not trying to create a functional tray. I'm creating a pretty tray. All right, so I want it in the middle. All right, and then let's come over here. So now I put the glue on rather thick, but just remember that any excess glue could potentially leak out the sides. So if that's something that you that bothers you, that you're going to worry about, then you definitely want to make sure that you only apply what you need. It's kind of like super glue. It's a very thin glue. So this side is already dry. I can lift it up already. So what was that? About 2 minutes. So I'm gonna let this all sit for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. All right, so there we go. We literally, I know I said I was gonna wait for 5 minutes, but I waited for probably another minute. And guys, my board is nice and secure, and I made it all on my own. All right, now like I said, this is decorative. This is not, I mean, it's pretty sturdy, okay? It's still 1/4 of an inch, but this is not like I'm gonna make something to take my husband breakfast in bed, or wife. So, you know, definitely keep that in mind. This isn't, it's not meant to be. If you are going to make a tray like that, then you can either purchase a pre-made tray or get wood that is thicker and that you will be able to use your screws for the handles and, you know, apply something more than wood super glue. But I just want to say, I want to brag on myself a little bit. These are straight, my handles are straight, my design is straight. I think for my first tray, this is pretty darn good. I am gonna stay in the back of it, and I'm gonna go around and hit the sides because my sides are black here. So technically I could have sanded that off if I wanted to, but since I'm gonna stain it, that's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm just going to stain the sides and I'm gonna call it done. Guys, I know that I have been bombarding you with Glowforge tutorials, but when I tell you that this was one of the main reasons that I wanted a laser printer, that is not an exaggeration, because I've done the placemats and they're really great. That's what I did last year. But you just really, I feel like you can't replace getting this type of look, okay? The engraved look. And I mean, hello, the super glue, the super wood glue, the amazing glue. So, like I said, now I probably would not try to serve breakfast in bed on this tray, but just the simple fact that I can put this together, I didn't have to drill anything. This is a full sheet. I did not have to cut down the sheet. Cutting these down were a piece of cake. Engraving it was the hardest part, getting it lined up, but hey, we covered that too, right? So, all right, I'm gonna quit gushing about this, but I really, really do love it. I hope you love it too. Make sure if you like the video, give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. Very important. Probably the most important tip I can give you, subscribe to the channel. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. I appreciate you stopping by, and guys, we will see you next time.